Welcome back to Star Wars Nerds Unite, a discussion and review podcast focused on the Star Wars universe canon. I'm your host, Tim VanAutreve. Joining me, as always, are Josh the Tosh, internet famous Mason.
Hello.
Welcome to the show, Josh.
Thanks.
And Jennifer.
Hi.
Newly delivered wife of mine, VanAutreve.
How is she newly delivered?
Yeah, I just got here in the mail.
She's been through the delivered process.
The delivery process?
Yeah. And also, Max is on the podcast again. His second podcast.
He's just staring at the
son.
ceiling.
It's the lights.
He likes the lights. He stares directly into the light. Very sharp lad. He's going to be on the podcast again, so he's very excited, I can tell. He almost smiled just then. And if you hear baby cooing, that's because we couldn't record this podcast unless he was in here, so that's that. Today, we're going to be discussing a couple of sweet books from The Last Jedi. The first one is going to be Star Wars The Last Jedi, The Visual Dictionary by my boy, Pablo Hidalgo. And, Josh, what book did you bring?
The Art of Star Wars The Last Jedi, which is written by Phil Szostak?
I heard podcast protocol, or like when you're talking on the air, broadcast protocol, you're supposed to confidently state the last name, even when you don't know how to pronounce it.
That's fine.
And that way
I don't know how to pronounce it.
People believe you.
They don't need to believe me.
Yeah, but then
this person exists whether I say his name right or not.
I don't agree with that, because then if you confidently say it totally wrong, people are going to be like, that's not how you say it.
Right.
But if you kind of act like, meh, I don't know, like then people will be like, he said it wrong, but obviously he just didn't know what he was talking about.
Look,
he's clearly not.
I'm the producer of this show, and I'll dictate how we pronounce names.
Well, you can go ahead and edit that out and somehow make it sound like I confidently said it.
All right, I will.
It'll be edited out, and Tim will.
Bill Stazzer.
Tim will confidently say it.
This book, I can tell just from the cover, is beautiful.
It's got lots of art.
It's beautiful inside, right?
It's got lots of art.
All right. Well, which one do you want to talk about first?
You already said you're talking about yours first.
Did I?
Have you seen the movie yet? Again?
No.
You've still only seen it once?
Yeah, I kind of was thinking of sneaking away today. I hadn't told Jennifer that yet, but Jennifer, I'm thinking about sneaking out today.
Okay.
All right.
She needs to see it again,
I
too.
need to do my homework before you do anything, and
yes, ma'am. Whatever you say.
it's due today.
There you go.
Oh, that's pretty.
So this book is...
This is the visual dictionary.
Right. If nobody knows what this is, it's published by DK. It stands for something, right?
I don't know. Dark Knight.
Yeah, Dark Knight.
Just say it confidently.
Just say it confidently.
Make it up.
Dang it.
Duke Killingsley Publishing Company.
Why do I always get myself into this? It's a Penguin Random House book. I never knew that. DK is an imprint of Penguin Random House. The DK is always those books like the Star Wars books where it's factual, you know?
That's trying to be like references.
Yeah.
Instead of like telling a story.
Right. So this book in particular is a visual, more like I'd say encyclopedia versus dictionary. They order the book in almost random order, but sort of logical groupings. They put all of the Snoke stuff together and the Octo stuff together, and they do it a little bit in chronological order for the movie itself. And what you'll get is a photo,
and then a reference.
Or like a sort of a what do you call this? A table.
What does that say?
It says far. I just put in little notes. I put in sticky notes on the things I wanted to talk about.
But then what does the words mean?
Far.
But yeah, what does that mean?
Well, I was going to tell you in a minute.
Oh, okay.
I'm explaining what the visual dictionary is for the people that don't know.
It's a book with pictures and words.
Yeah.
All right, now let's talk about those pictures.
There's a whole bunch of little pictures, and they cut out like a person or a ship, and then they'll talk about that particular item. But it's all sort of scattered around the page, so it's perfect for kids with ADD like me. It's easy to read.
Or for asynchronous reading sessions.
Right.
Is what you meant to say.
That's what I meant. Sure. So I marked out some of the things that were striking to me. I did not finish the entire book, but I'll say most of it. So the first thing that I noticed was at the beginning, they talk about an introduction and just visually they put a big picture of those sand skimmers in, or salt skimmers or whatever they're called in crate with the red dirt coming up. But they mentioned that
Quick.
yeah, it's quick, right? So the characters themselves are mere moments from the events that indelibly shaped them in the last film. So episode 8 starts way quicker from episode 7 than I thought. It seems like it's within a week or around that time period. I mean, it's really quick, I guess. Yeah. Which I thought Finn was going to be out for a long time, getting healed, and I really thought there'd be much more of a time transition.
So I think there was some time transition in between what happened on Starkiller and the end of The Force Awakens. More days, I would say.
Okay. But you're still not looking at, I assume there would be months and there would be years perhaps in between the two, and there's absolutely not. It's probably within a month, easily within a month.
Easily. Probably 2 weeks max.
So they also, the next page, they have a big table, and they show they break out who the New Republic, the First Order, the Resistance are, and they show some of the planets that we see in this movie. And they also give us a star map of the galaxy, and one I have not seen since the new canon. It was interesting to me that
they had this map, another version of it in the last movie.
Right, but they've expanded it with planets that I didn't know.
Yeah.
The thing that I found most interesting was, well, I like how they put Bespin and Hoth together, like right next to each other, which makes sense because Han didn't have any hyperspace in Empire. But Dakar to Crate is a short burst, right? It's close.
Right.
But from Crate to Cantonica is
really far away,
all the way across the galaxy. Like, it almost couldn't be farther. It's from the far, well, it's not really south, but the far south end of this map, all the way to the very tippy top on the east side, and
almost the full diameter of the galaxy.
And it seems like they travel that distance in such a short period of time in the movie.
A matter of hours, yeah.
But then it's across the galaxy.
It very much is.
I never thought hyperspace was that fast. Like, I guess I assumed when you went into hyperspace, you might be in there for a couple weeks in order to get somewhere. What are your thoughts on that?
The movies don't belie that, I would say. I remember in some of the old
books,
the
old books,
the old EU, they would talk about how they'd be going on like a 1 week journey to get to a planet.
Yeah, and they'd be in hyperspace for a while, and they'd be doing Jedi training while they're on there.
Yeah.
Or...
So I think the old books definitely made it seem like it was more of a journey than the movies have.
What are the lines? Are those like
they're like rough regions
routes?
Right.
Like there's the inner rim, there's the expansion region, the mid rim, and then the outer rim. It's just trying to explain, like when they say the outer rim, what does that even mean?
Mm-hmm.
They also showed Luke's journey to Octo, which started on a mystery planet. They didn't name the planet.
Then Kashyyyk.
But he stopped in Kashyyyk, and then he headed out to Octo in a very, I don't know, twisty route.
Octo?
That's the planet he's on at the end.
That's the
that's the first Jedi temple.
So why did he stop on Kashyyyk?
We don't know.
That's where the Wookiees are from, right?
Yeah.
So the next area is about the Resistance fleet, and I thought it was interesting that the big calamari ship they were on was called the Raddus.
Yeah.
Which was named after the guy from
Admiral Raddus.
Yeah, from Rogue One. And Akbar, they reveal, had a beef with Raddus because he thought Raddus was too rash.
Yeah.
But he eventually got over it after Raddus died and studied his tactics and has a greater appreciation for him. And they talk about Finn and General Organa. So this was interesting to me. C-3PO was on the Organa page, and they revealed that there's an olfactory sensor on 3PO. So that little hole it looks like a trach hole is his is his
How he
nose.
smells, yeah.
Interesting. This I thought was interesting here. Poe got a 2-page spread. He wears a ring necklace, the wedding ring of his late mother, Shara Bay, on a necklace, waiting to share it with somebody with the right partner. And my note said, Roe.
You forgot the hashtag, though.
Oh, hashtag Roe. Yeah, I shipped them.
He's a reluctant leader, it says.
Yeah. They talk about resistance droids and how they're modded and have big battery packs to keep them active since they don't get recharged very often. The bombs, they actually do. Pablo talks about how they work, and he basically acknowledges what everyone had to know. He said bombs don't technically drop in microgravity, but are impelled from their racks by sequenced electromagnetic plates in the clip. The bombs are then drawn magnetically to their unfortunate targets. Yeah. So we had talked about how they wrote stuff on the proton bombs before.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool. I loved those bombers. I have been staring at the Lego bomber.
Yeah.
But I keep thinking about how it doesn't look like it stands on its own.
I think it's got a thing so that it does stand on its own, but it's precarious.
So I was kind of nervous about getting it just because how do you display it? Anyway, if anybody wants to buy that for me, let me know.
He doesn't need it. That's a joke.
You should buy it for me.
It's not a joke. Get it for me over to Mason. The next is talking about resistance starfighters, and they talk about...
This is like the opposite of a Tim synopsis of a book.
I'm picking out the things that were interesting to me. There was a lot of cool stuff in this book.
This looks like Alyssa Milano when she
A
was
little
younger.
bit from Charmed.
That was Tally Lintra.
She's the A-Wing pilot.
Yeah, she's 22 years old. Very young, and she can give Poe a run for her money.
She was, yeah. I liked that character a lot, but then she got blown up.
Maybe.
Not maybe. She got blown up.
So this I didn't know about the new X-Wings. The T-70s are the ones that the Resistance flies, but there's actually a T-85 out. Can you believe that?
I do believe that.
T-85 the Republic has, but the Resistance hasn't gotten them yet. I thought that was interesting. They talk about Hux, and it's weird, like they do these call-outs where, they'll pull out an officer's blaster pistol or a controller intercom headset, and they just sort of like do a little call-out line and just point at a thing to explain what a certain aspect of this picture is. And they managed to pull out an officer's insulated drinking cup.
Yeah. Hey.
What? That's so strange. It's just like a black cup with some gray accent lines on it.
Yeah.
That's weird.
It makes the universe feel more real.
I guess.
When you think about how all these things had to be bought at Galactic Walmart.
Well, no, not the new.
You don't think the officers had to buy their own fancy cups?
No.
I guarantee you the officers had to buy their own fancy cups.
Those are New Order issue.
I doubt it.
I don't. All right, so it's also revealed why Kylo, I think, was shirtless in that scene. It talks about how the medical droid, Kylo, reminded me that Kylo took that bowcaster wound in episode 7. So he's been getting back to therapy on his stomach. And so maybe that was why he was, showing us his 8-pack.
Well, how could he have gotten it only on his chest? Don't you have to get in the tank?
No,
you can
treatments.
Yeah, you can do local.
Oh.
Luke got it because he had frostbite on his whole body.
Well, I've seen a lot of different images of people in the whole tank.
Sure.
In comics and stuff.
They did a call out on the Supremacy, and they talked a lot about the ship itself. It was amazing to me. I knew it was gigantic, but they actually reveal that this ship can house, like they'll repair AT-ATs or like big walkers, and they also can build and repair entire Star Destroyers inside of the Supremacy, Snoke's giant ship. And they revealed that in this book that Snoke has no base of operations at all, except for this ship. Isn't that crazy? Like, he doesn't have a home planet.
He might have a home planet. He just doesn't have a base.
He has no throne world.
Right.
That's
makes
what
sense.
I mean.
If they came from the outer regions,
that's still nuts. That he hasn't picked a place to chill. He just chills on this giant ship. That ship is so cool. I hope they repair it.
It's like his RV.
It is his RV.
He's retired. He's just always on the move.
Yeah. One thing I thought was cool was the way that they color the pages. So when they talk about Sith or Kylo, I guess I shouldn't say Sith. They talk about Kylo or Snoke. The pages are black. And another thing I found interesting on Snoke's page was they revealed that something that I hadn't, we talked about, but I hadn't completely acknowledged in my brain was that Snoke is not a Sith, and the Sith are gone. Like, they fully established that the Sith have, with Palpatine, when he left, the Sith are no more. So the prophecy that the Skywalkers would destroy the Sith or whatever has been fulfilled. And then...
That's your interpretation.
Right.
It doesn't say that.
Right.
Yep.
So, Snoke thinks that only a Skywalker is strong enough to kill off the Last Jedi, and that's why he's after Kylo. So that's about halfway through the book, and I didn't get much further. Praetorian guards and rows and that kind of thing, and beyond that,
there's some cool stuff.
Yeah, there is.
The back
so
side.
There's stuff that if anybody else gets this book and reads it, send in some of the cool stuff you saw in there that you think adds to our interpretation of the story. But it's definitely worth it, and you can get this book on Amazon for pretty cheap. I got it for like $13 or something.
Yeah.
It's well worth $13. There you go.
How many lightsabers? For half the book.
So, well, I mean,
You should just do it out of 5.
So I read like a little over half the book, but I skimmed the whole book.
Okay.
Right. So like you said, you sort of open a page and then you look at something that draws your eye and you read the little part that goes with it and then you move on. That was what I did. I flipped through every page, but I didn't like read the whole thing.
So what's your rating?
8. And I only say that because it's not like, it doesn't make me want to do backflips, but I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I tried to look at it, but I didn't have very much time, and it really seemed like a real dictionary. It was so detailed, but it was like something you could really be like, you couldn't remember who somebody was or something, and you'd be like, let me look it up in my dictionary.
Yeah.
Like, you really could use it like that.
And one thing it does is it pulls out those characters that you don't, like the background characters that you know don't have names in the movie, but actually do have names. A lot like why I like those Star Wars CCG cards so well, because you knew everybody in the cantina.
Story.
In here, I mean, they don't go into quite that detail, but they do pull out some of the officers and that kind of thing.
Yep.
So it was really cool. I remember when Jenny last night, she was like, so what do I need to know about this book? When we were going to podcast. And I laughed. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you don't need to know anything. You're just going to sit there while we talk about the book and make witty comments like usual. Well, like, look at the book if you want to.
Well,
so I handed it to her.
I did try, but...
Was there like a Black Mirror episode you have to watch instead?
No.
Max was a little fussy yesterday.
And, well, there was a lot of stuff going on yesterday.
We threw a surprise party for Jenny for her birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thanks. And I just don't have my hands free. If it was a smaller book, I could have probably done it while I was holding
Why don't
him.
you use a wrap?
A book rack?
A wrap.
Oh, a wrap. I thought you meant like hold the book. I have one and I have used it sometimes. I used the carrier yesterday to vacuum the house after everybody left and he fell asleep.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Babies love getting...
Yeah. I
held.
vacuumed for like 45 minutes. Tim told me, he timed me, I guess. But he fell asleep as soon as I started vacuuming. And then as soon as I stopped, he woke up. So it was pretty awesome.
She's really glad that he likes the vacuum.
Yeah.
Well, it means I can like do something.
straight from her heart.
Next time you come
I
over to
can
my
be
house, which I
productive.
don't know if you've ever been to my house,
I've been.
you'll have to test drive my vacuum. We have a really nice vacuum.
What kind is it?
It's a Miele.
Oh, never heard of it.
Yeah.
It's gotta be fancy. It sounds
I
fancy.
just got an old Kirby.
Yeah. No, this is
It's like 100 pounds.
this is not. It's the opposite of that. It's super lightweight and it's a 2-piece, so it's a canister style. So the canister rolls behind you,
Oh.
and it's super suction and super quiet. It's awesome.
Oh,
You have to try it.
But then that might not put him to
No,
sleep.
it's got a noise. So
It's-
Yeah,
it'll put him to
it's
sleep.
quite like his heater is,
Right.
which is to say not quiet.
It's quiet.
So we're using Josh's heater this time, but we have it. It's like one of those like turbo blast canister heaters. So it's blowing into the room from outside the room. So the heater noise should be less this time, but it is mega cold outside again.
Did you fix your thing?
What thing? Oh, his snowblower?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I did fix it.
He absolutely smelled like gas, in case anyone's curious.
Yeah, I was covered in gas.
It was mostly on like your gloves. Like as soon as you put
In
your
my
coat on
pants,
and stuff,
yeah.
you stank. But I didn't really smell you when we were recording.
Yeah, I fixed my snowblower, and then I had to use it. I've used it twice.
We're supposed to get snow tonight.
Not a lot, though, like an inch.
1 to 4 inches is what Dark Sky said.
Oh, yeah? Yeah. So,
Who's Dark Sky?
it's a website.
It's an app.
Oh,
It's like a
it
super
sounds
detailed
like
app.
an American Indian name.
Yeah,
It is. It's an American Indian. He
And that one, oh, is
he
it real
smells the
person?
wind, and then he predicts the weather.
I was going to say that would be awesome if there really was an American Indian meteorologist.
I'm sure there is, but this is not that.
Oh, that would be so cool. They
Okay.
could- oh, yeah. Never.
So now we're talking about the art book.
Now we're talking about the art book, which I got for like $15 on Amazon.
I almost bought this too, just because I think
It's
they're
totally worth it. It's
way
like
pretty.
300 pages, give or take. 250-ish.
I wish I had a coffee table. This would be the perfect book for that.
It's got tons of art. And it's got tons of like full page art. That's really good.
It's like double page spreads,
Yeah.
and it's a big book.
It's a pretty big book.
It's pretty
It's
big
probably
format.
11 by 16 easily. If you're familiar with standard
Actually, it might be
print sizes.
11 by 17 with the double.
Well, I'm just telling you, this is an 11 by 17 is a standard print size.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to that. Okay, so the structure of this thing is it kind of does the same thing where it's got disparate topics kind of all over the place. It tries to stay in somewhat chronological order, but there's like two things going on. There's like the narrative, which tells the development of the movie through the art. And then there's separate sections that are focused on like specific characters. So it's kind of weird as you get into it because you'll read this whole page and it's about the development and it'll talk about things that they're working on. And then you'll go to the next page and it'll be talking about something not related to what they just talked about at all. But there's lots of little nuggets in the development of it. The first third of the book is stuff that they actually developed for The Force Awakens. But then they ultimately decided... Originally, Luke was going to be in The Force Awakens. Rey was going to find Luke early on in the movie. And the whole training stuff was going to happen in The Force Awakens. But they ultimately decided to change it to how we saw the movie because they felt it gave her a better character arc. So all of this, the beginning of this book is all Last Jedi Temple stuff. Like, wouldn't that be weird? There's a lot of stuff that reminds me a lot of Riven or Myst, if you remember those games.
Yeah, I saw there's a floating meditation sphere, but it's a rock, right?
Yeah.
So it's a rock that
Being held up by the Force.
right.
Yeah.
It's like a sphere
cut in
cut in half, and the top is floating on top of the bottom
Yeah.
part.
So there was a lot of interesting stuff. They talked a lot about how the story parallels George Lucas's original drafts pretty closely, like almost exactly. And so like all the main characters come straight out of his story. The whole premise that Luke's an emo Jedi Master on this island is straight from George Lucas' original plot.
So what do you? So George Lucas originally wrote the rest
sounds
of
like-
the stories, and then he just didn't.
It sounds like for a while he had a story written for the sequels,
Yeah.
and it was just the next movie, so just like 7, and they were starting to work on it, and he ultimately decided he didn't have the energy or the desire to make more movies, and that's why he sold Lucasfilm, so that somebody else could make the movies. And so he had a whole story that they took, and then they kind of, like I said, they cut parts, they moved stuff along. So it talks. There's all kinds of different narrative threads woven through this book, but it talks primarily about the Jedi killer, which we talked like the last time we covered this book. For The Force Awakens, it talks a lot about the Jedi killer. So there was this guy who's a Jedi killer who was going to be Han and Leia's kid. But then there was possibly going to be another kid, and then there was this whole Luke's abandoned on an island, hiding from everybody narrative thread, and he had something to do with the Jedi killer. So pretty much the only stuff that they kind of pulled out of thin air was like Finn. Pretty much everything else came, the ideas and the general structure of it came from the original story that George Lucas wrote. So there's just lots of cool art talking about all the characters and how they developed.
The porgs.
There's a porg. Apparently they actually made that shot and it got cut where the porgs were messing around with that lightsaber,
And one of them,
Anakin's lightsaber, and they turned it on and it went through another porg's head.
That would have been funny if they had that and then Chewie grabbed it and ate it really fast after he was dead.
That sounds disturbing. More disturbing than Luke drinking that milk.
Yeah. But I mean, you can see, so one of the other interesting things, they talked about how they interacted with Ryan and stuff, and how Ryan was super big on just making the movie look like the art. Like, he was super sold on the art. And so you'll see these pictures, whereas if you go to The Force Awakens, you can see the art is more of an inspiration for what ultimately came. It's super literal on a lot of...
Yeah, like the shots are literally even the same camera angle.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy how much the movie is the art. Almost verbatim. So there's a lot of really cool pictures about Octo. They talked a lot about... So those original things were like the Jedi Temple we were talking about. They went through so many iterations on the Jedi Temple, going from something that looked more like the prequel trilogy to what we ultimately got, which was a hole in the wall.
Right, a rock.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't even think of what that looked like.
It just
didn't
huts.
really show.
It was huts, and then it was...
Well, the temple itself was just the cave up at the top, and then the meditation spot. And they talked about the tree a lot, and how they went through different iterations of how the tree would look like inside. Like, one looks like a hobbit house with a library in it.
So do we still know where those trees went?
Where what trees went?
The forest
Forest
trees.
trees from
No.
Shara. And
They don't reference anything like that.
I was going to ask, do you think that in the movies anybody's ever going to hear about Poe's parents?
No.
So they're never really going to know what...
The only person who knew them was Leia.
What if they mention it when Poe gives Rey his mother's ring?
I mean, they might say this was my mom's.
This was my mother's ring.
But they're not going to say, Shara Bay, rebellion pilot.
I think that would be very good for the story.
Yeah. Then they talked a lot about apparently the whole Caretakers thing was a big thing. Like, they worked on the Caretakers a lot. And there's males and females, and we only see the females. And apparently there was a whole shot in the movie, a sequence in the movie that was taken out where it's the third lesson that we never get. So he talks about how he's going to give Rey 3 lessons.
Yeah.
We see 1 and 2, but we never see 3. The third lesson involves the Caretakers, where Rey sees this burning, it looks like a burning village, and she thinks that the First Order has come and attacked the Caretaker village.
Yeah.
And so in the trailer, you see that shot where she's running on the beach with her lightsaber out. So they shot it all, and it's really just a big party, and Chewbacca's there with the Caretakers having a party, because apparently the male Caretakers go out and they live on Waterworld fishing, and then they bring all the fish back to the village once every couple weeks, and they have a big party.
Why can't they just fish the way Luke does?
I have no idea. That's just the way it is. Like the mirror cave, like that's exactly
what was the lesson though?
I don't. They didn't get into the detail on.
Lesson was know when to let your hair down.
I think it was more that
know when to let those 3 ponytails out.
Don't act so
Work
rashly.
hard, play hard.
Wait until you understand the situation before you act.
Oh.
Because he told her like, hey, you got to let that happen. We can't stop everything in the galaxy. She's like, no, I have to save them.
That would be a good lesson to teach her. And a lesson that Luke could have learned in Empire.
Well, she ultimately repeated his failure.
Right.
Maybe that's why they didn't do the lesson, because then
It worked out okay.
Yeah.
it'd be like, you didn't learn the lesson I just taught you, obviously.
So then there's lots of the stuff on the Supremacy and the First Order. That's super creepy. Like the medical droid. They talked about the development of the medical droid.
Fixing his scar.
Apparently another interesting thing is the whole flashback to Luke and Kylo at the Jedi Temple wasn't in the movie until the very end of, like, a couple weeks before they started shooting. They decided to add it.
For real?
Yeah. Like, it wasn't a thing.
I'm trying to think of how it would have been if they hadn't put it in.
I don't know. But then they talked about, there's a passage here that I thought you should read, Jen.
Okay.
Let me make sure. Read this whole paragraph.
Out loud.
Yeah.
Okay. The Three Flashbacks were a late addition, one of the last things that went into the script before we started shooting. It's similar to, how do you say that? Rashomon?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not going to say it confidently.
Yeah.
Though.
I think it's a title of a movie.
But the actual story motivation was that I wanted some harder kick to Rey's turn. You didn't tell me this. I wanted some harder line that was crossed, a more defined thing that we could actually see between Luke and Kylo. I didn't want to do a big flashback, so one flashback that you repeat 3 times, but that's just one moment, seemed more right. Ultimately, the only one who lies is Luke in the very first flashback, where he admits the fact that he had a lightsaber in his hand. Kylo is basically telling the truth about his perception of that moment.
There you go. We have been arguing about that.
So did you read that before our argument?
No.
So now do you agree with me more?
I don't agree with you more. I'm just saying it makes your argument stronger.
Yay. That's how I kind of took it.
Alright. I think lots of stuff on the ships, and like it's just literally exactly, the art is, like I said, the art's the story.
Like. Yeah. Everything's so visually striking. Like the artwork is really cool.
It is. They talked a lot about Snoke's room and how they kept on trying to figure out how to make it ultimately look the way they made it look, where it's like they wanted you to not understand what the red was, like what material it was, what kind of surface it was, until it started burning, and then it revealed that it was cloth and that behind it was just some windows. Like he was really intent on that.
That's weird.
Well, it makes it look very visually interesting.
Yeah.
Then there's a whole bunch of stuff on Rose and Canto Bight. Like a whole bunch of stuff on Canto Bight.
Well, that was like the most interesting.
Well, what was interesting? Go ahead.
Are Rose and her sister in any other stories?
No. Well, they're in Cobalt Squadron, which is a book that came out right before the movie.
Oh. There's
like a
kind
kid's
of
book.
a similar story in the Leia comics. Remember the 2 sisters, and one of them was in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know if they
A
were
member of
supposed
the
to be-
Empire.
Yeah, I didn't know if they were supposed to be the same.
No. So the interesting thing that I got out of this is they probably spent, I don't know, 30 to 50% of their effort on Canto Bight. Like, it's amazing how many iterations of different creatures and buildings. And,
Well, there was so much there.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not just a ship.
and then they talked about the production. Like, it's incredible how much they put into the production of that scene inside the casino. Like, it sounds like it was the biggest set they've ever built. It was the most expensive set they've ever built. And they only built it for like a week, and then they tore it down because they had to build other sets.
Wow.
And it just, so much of the story is talking about how Ryan picked the weirdest looking creatures he could possibly get.
They should build a like adult, well, not just adult and kid type
Excuse me.
arcade game room that looks like that for Disney World. That would be fun.
Maybe.
That would be fun.
It'd be really cool.
I don't know that they really want to encourage gambling though.
I could role play
Well,
that
they
I'm
could
a
just do it,
world class sabacc player.
It doesn't have to be gambling. I mean,
They could put it in our hotel,
yeah.
in our theme hotel when we go visit it in 3 years or whatever. That would be so awesome.
The other thing that I thought was really interesting is the whole DJ character. It sounds like he talked to Benicio del Toro. It's like, do you want to be in this movie? He's like, yeah. And then they just made a character for him, and he dictated like the whole design of the character.
Really?
They talk about how he would come and look at the art, and he would want pockets in different places that they didn't like. Just he iterated the character himself.
That's weird.
It's really weird.
Was it his idea to do the weird stuttering thing?
I think so.
That confuses me.
So Jesus mentioned on our Discord, which is a cool app we've been using, like a chat app.
Chat platform.
The whole Star Wars Nerds Unite crew gets together on and keeps in touch, shares ideas. But
What did he say?
Siri thought I was talking to her. He said that they had some whatever panel with Pablo and them, and somebody asked if DJ was Ezra,
Right.
and they didn't say no.
Yeah, they said it tongue in cheek though.
Okay, I don't think DJ
He's not
is
Ezra. Well, yeah, so I mean they spent a giant portion of the book talking about Canto Bight and how even that they couldn't figure it out until like the very end. They spent a solid 80 pages on it. How it was always like they modeled it after Monaco, and it was always it looked too real, not Star Warsy. And so they took a lot of inspiration from the prequel trilogy to try and make it look Star Warsy. But yeah, so like all these, so I'm looking at art of Finn and Rose sneaking into the Supremacy, and you'll notice DJ is not in any of these pictures because he was added later.
Which makes sense. He was just supposed to give him something to crack the code with.
So there's a whole other thing. I guess I passed over it with the codebreaker. So we only saw the codebreaker for like a hot second in the movie.
Justin Thoreau.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was a whole separate. There was going to be a whole scene where they meet the codebreaker in a cabaret.
Yeah.
And like he comes and talks to him and he explains how he's trying to steal something from this warlord. And then they go off on an adventure with the codebreaker to try and steal this thing from this warlord guy. And ultimately the codebreaker helps them.
And then DJ's just like...
DJ doesn't exist.
I think
at
that
this
would
point.
make more sense. I still don't understand what happened with DJ.
So this makes it seem like he's just a guy who happened to be...
So he wasn't the real codebreaker.
No, not based on what this book says.
And the First Order didn't plant him there.
No.
They didn't. It was all circumstantial, like random.
It was the Force. It was the will of the
right.
Force.
Right, basically. They don't say that, but I mean, that's the
So
best
he wasn't-
Occam's razor solution.
He wasn't undercover.
Nope.
Like he just really was.
He was just there.
in jail.
Yeah,
Or maybe this is all just a deflection because he really is Ezra.
maybe.
I would have rather had the codebreaker storyline. I think with Justin Thoreau.
I saw they had a whole thing, but then I think Ryan fell in love with Benicio and gave him a whole thing.
Aren't we all in love with Benicio?
There was one other. They talked a lot about.
That would suck for Justin Thoreau. Like, sorry, but like you think you're gonna be this cool character, and you have all these scenes, and then you're in the movie for literally like 4 seconds.
Yeah.
Like you don't even have a line.
At least he got to dress up.
Yeah. He looks very snazzy. They talked a lot about the bombers and how
Awesome they are.
well first it was like the first scene that he wrote, and like he was adamant this is going to be the opening scene of the movie, and they spent like months trying to design the bomber, and it always looked like World War II bombers, and it was like flat. They went through all kinds of different iterations where it was flat, and then finally somebody came up with the more vertical orientation, and he was really satisfied with that, and so they went with that. I thought there was another cool thing in here worth looking at. They show how like the reason that they came up with that it's that shape is like the bottom part is like a clip.
Yeah, the clip of a gun, right?
And so they could rearm the bombers really quickly because they could have preloaded clips. They could just drop everything, go back, and lock in a new clip.
Yeah, and then the ground crew reloads them or whatever.
Yep. Just
Getting to
more
the end here.
more stuff about rebel ship design, and then they talk about Crate a lot. So Crate went through a lot of different iteration before they finally got to what it ultimately looked like. They knew it was going to be the salt and the red, but they didn't know like what the door was going to look like, and there was lots of hemming and hawing on that. The skimmer design. And then here's where we get to some of the interesting things. They talked about
The battering ram.
well, like, yeah, the equivalent of the battering ram. But then you remember that Lego set?
Yeah, that scout walker, or
weird
whatever.
looking
Spider walker.
Yeah. So it's all over the art. And so that's obviously where
The Lego
the Lego
design.
people got it. But it's just interesting that it never made it into the movie.
I didn't like that Lego. It looks weird.
It looks dumb. The actual thing looks less dumb, but the Lego looks really dumb. Then they also they showed in numerous places where they storyboarded out like whole sequences more than there was one I skipped over that I was going to show you, where they plotted out the entire escape through the streets of Canto Bight. Like they made a giant map. And
how they got out?
yeah, and like, they're going to start here, they're going to run down
It's
this
a
road.
3D map.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's multiple of them. So like they did a lot of effort to try and make it seem
Real.
consistent.
Yeah. Crystal foxes. They show the images of those.
Here's Canto Bight. They made a cross-sectional map of the geography of the Canto Bight mine so that it would, again, make sense to
the
them.
crate mine.
Sorry. Yeah, great. That's, I think the rest is just pictures and references.
Oh, yeah, and it shows the kids at the end.
Well, the last picture is the last shot from the film.
Yeah.
I think the biggest difference between this and The Force Awakens is how literal they took the art. The Force Awakens, it was way more influential, whereas this is just direct. But yeah, there's lots of Ryan has lots of little asides and things that he puts in this book.
So we
Talks about the development process.
just spent 45 minutes talking about the visual, 2 books that are completely visual, almost.
Yeah,
It's pretty awesome.
they're definitely the art one. I recommended the Force Awakens one. Too,
Yeah, you did.
strongly.
And I waited to get it, and then it was like $30, and because the price kept going up the longer I waited.
This one is just as good. It's got lots of really cool art, and it's worth reading too. It took me probably 4 hours to read it because there's quite
It's
a bit
meaty.
of text.
It's a thick book.
But I'd say 9 lightsabers. It's really good.
Awesome. Loved it. The art is really pretty. I want that book. Jenny, you should buy it for me. So that's the podcast on this. We're going to get into letters now. How much time do you have? Somebody had to leave at 11.
She has to leave at
or
11:45.
Yeah, Nolan needs picked up at 11:45.
something. All right,
Oh, so you need to leave by 11:30.
He's just at the high school
Oh.
for snowball.
So we can leave at 12.
yeah.
11.
So we'll get into some letters here. This one is from John Wright. He says, and we're skipping again the old emails, and I'm sorry to everybody that emailed in like 2 months ago, but Last Jedi is still timely enough that we want to capture all those ideas now. He says, "What's up, nerds?" Oh, and you can get an email right on the air. Letters at StarWarsNerdsUnite.com. Email us. Tell us your thoughts, theories, questions. If you want the Discord link, whatever. What's up, nerds? This is probably the first time I've written in, but I recently had a long road trip during which I was able to catch up quite a bit on the podcast. I have a lot to say, but I'm probably going to mainly respond to the Last Jedi episode. Before that, however, I have to say this. Jen, I know we've never met, but your synopses are the best. Just FYI.
Yay.
So,
Thanks.
just so everyone knows, John Wright and I went to school together.
So with me.
Yeah. He was in my grade.
Yes.
And we were friends starting in like junior high. We both wore polyester pants and invented what it was to be a modern day hipster back then.
Back then you were just called a nerd.
Right. I was just a huge dork. I wore like old shirts and like polyester plaid pants, and that was awesome. Josh, when Landmark played old movies, it was called the Rerun film series. I'm pretty sure the animal on the shirt was a buffalo, and I'm pretty sure Chad probably still has that shirt. I think he's referring to Brewer.
Yeah.
Side note, one time I went to Landmark and some of the other theater goers were definitely sneaking in alcohol. It's a classy place.
Yeah, we made a joke about going to Landmark a few episodes back, and I think he
Well, I asked a specific question, if anyone remembered it.
Oh.
Yeah, Landmark is one of our local movie theaters in Peoria. He says, Tim, way to be present, bless your heart. John and I are friends, so I kind of take that a little personally. It kind of hurt my feelings a little bit when he said that. He's basically implying that I am useless on this podcast and add nothing.
No.
That's exactly what that says.
No.
Bless your little stupid heart.
I think he was being sincere.
Yeah. Way to be present, he says. Anyways, The Last Jedi. This movie seems to be fairly divisive. Overall, it has some really good highs, but it also had some really bad lows. First time I saw it, I thought it was fine, but I kept thinking about it afterwards. In my head, it just kept getting more and more awful to the point that I actually started to dislike it. There are so many parts that aren't needed, too many overt references to the original trilogy. I thought there was way less than the first movie. Too many,
definitely less than The Force Awakens.
Too many underdeveloped ideas, characters, too many ideas, characters pushed into the movie, too many questions from the last movie unanswered, and I could go on. Honestly, my biggest beef is that it seems like Disney is burning down the whole franchise just so they can start anew. I'll admit that there was some serious garbage in the old EU, but the world building that it created, how we got to follow all the characters through their lives, is part of the reason why I stayed a fan. It just seems very odd to have something that you've poured so much time into be erased, and then you have to start all over again. However, I saw it a second time. Oddly enough, it got better for me. The faults are still there, and they're still pretty major, but the second time helped me to enjoy it more than the first. I wasn't analyzing it as much, and I had time to link the faults and successes to the same faults and successes that were present in episodes 1 through 6. Still not saying that it was a good movie, but if I had to rate it, I'd probably only give it a 7. But it's still a fun movie, has cheesy parts, bad dialogue, fuzzy cute creatures, pretty much everything that makes a Star Wars movie a Star Wars movie. On another note, I actually enjoy watching Rebels quite a bit, so I'm trying to catch up on the Rebels episodes. Keep on slogging through those episodes. The end will be in sight eventually. The end is in sight.
Yeah, we only have
Rebels.
half a season left?
Yep. It's starting back up here pretty soon.
Oh, God.
So, John, I'm glad you got your pessimism pants. And you changed those polyester plaid pessimism pants. You took those off and put on some different
Were they
ones.
periwinkle?
Yeah. Put on some different ones to go watch it that second time. Hopefully you put on those same positivity pants
Oh, my God.
when you listen to the podcast next, and you can be more positive about me.
Oh, God. I thought you were going to say something different.
Nope. Here we go. Next letter is from, this is from Maddie. She says, hearing my letter read on the air was incredible and surreal. Thanks for clarifying what I asked. There was a letter I sent before the Last Jedi one that was never read. It would need to be modified since my predictions were incorrect, but there were questions that I really need answered. Do you need me to send it again? I hope we answered that already. We're gonna get to all those older emails, but we got to get through all these Last Jedi stuff just because it's Last Jedi time right now. I think probably next episode we'll be able to get back into the older emails. You think?
Yeah.
If we get through all the Last Jedi ones today.
Yeah. For Christmas, I received my first pop vinyl. I got the Princess Leia from The Last Jedi. Which one did you get? Did you get the Walmart exclusive? It's pretty cool. I have that one. It's really my first Star Wars merchandise. I feel like I can really call myself a fan now. Also, I got some Lego lightsaber earrings and a pair of Millennium Falcon earrings. That's cool.
Ooh.
So they have these things called brickheads. Lego makes their own version of sort of pop vinyls,
Yeah.
and they're really cool. You should
I
buy
don't like
those.
them in general.
I do.
There's some that are in, like the Boba Fett one's okay, but in general, I don't like them.
I have Batman, and I have Robin, and I have, well, Max, I guess, has Kylo and Ren. It was like a 2-pack.
Mm.
They were on clearance at Walmart, and my coworker bought them for me so that I could pay him back for them.
Mm.
He's been doing that. As I have been watching the Clone Wars, this pressing question has come to mind. The Republic, which all our prequel heroes stood for, became the Empire. Therefore, that means that the Separatists turned into the Rebels, which all our original trilogy fought for. Does that mean all our prequel heroes are actually villains? Please clarify this for me.
That's something that I've thought about, and I talked about when I first started like understanding the older movies and everything. It's like, wait a minute, the Separatists were actually right that there was something wrong with the Republic, but they're seen as the bad guys.
The difference is the Separatists were being manipulated by the Sith to create the war. So the Separatists don't become the rebellion. Most of the Separatists are like, they end up just being an offshoot or even joining the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
The rebellion is made up of primarily the systems that were in the Republic that don't like the fact that it turned into the Empire.
But both sides were being manipulated, and
Correct.
By Palpatine.
And so, in some ways, some of the Separatists who weren't totally evil were right to think that there was something wrong with the Republic.
Right.
They both were right.
But they
were
weren't-
both being manipulated.
They weren't against the part of the Republic that was bad. They were against the part of the Republic that was good. They just didn't want to be governed by other systems. They wanted to be their own. They thought they had power, and they might as well claim that power. And they were manipulated by Dooku. So Separatists do not become the rebellion.
I am skimming this email, and I'm realizing it is not Last Jedi related, so we probably should have skipped it, even though I really don't want to leave Maddie out here.
We're already in it.
I know. I'm finishing it. Jeez. I'm just trying to point out that I'm not on topic here. While suffering through the whole Force Planet story arc in Clone Wars, I think it's Mortis or something. You know, people love that.
It's a really good arc.
The whole time I was simply thinking how weird it was and was hoping it was someone's fever delusions because it would be a better storyline. I was disappointed to discover that there was a third Mortis episode since the first one was one too many, but my disappointment was made up for when the brother showed Anakin his future as Darth Vader. It was really cool, but then that was the only decent scene of all 3 episodes. I've been very slowly making my way through Clone Wars. I finally watched the first one. I didn't hate it. I usually don't like weird dream sequence things, like where they show visions and stuff, but I enjoyed the first one.
Is that the one I saw
Yeah.
you watching?
But yeah, you started it before you fell asleep instantly. What is the Old Republic? I thought it was Clone Wars era, but they mention it in past tense, so I wasn't sure. Was it before the schism between the Republic and the Separatists?
Way before it.
Yeah, way, way before. It was like a really old...
Thousands of years before.
Right.
And may not... the stories we know from the Old Republic may not be in the canon still.
Flashback to the great phone case debate. My tablet case got demolished after 3 years of use. The reason I have a case is to protect it from myself and others, like car insurance. And since I took it off, it feels so weird. It looks strange, too. I'm not particularly clumsy, but when it comes to devices, especially without cases, they are too sleek and thin, so I tend to drop them. May the Force be with you, Maddie. They're too sleek and thin.
Yeah, exactly.
They're too beautifully engineered and designed.
So buy the fat ones that have more battery and aren't sleek.
Yeah, I'm fully on board with no phone case patrol.
Not me.
Next one is The Last Jedi review. This one is from Christian. He says, or she, I'm not actually sure. Christian? It doesn't matter. This wonderful human being says, "What's up, everyone? Wanted to thank you guys again for the feedback on your favorite Star Wars novels and comics. Thought I would give my review of The Last Jedi. As I'm writing this, I've only seen it once, but by the time you do your next podcast about the art, I'll have seen it at least 2 more times." 2 more than me. First off, 10 lightsabers. To me, this movie had the best story of any of the previous 8, including Rogue One. I actually felt emotion while watching this movie, and it had me on edge of my seat the whole time. Like Tim, I went in with 0 spoilers and only watched 2 trailers. I wanted to leave the theater crying, and I almost did. The ending with Luke I thought was beautiful and perfect. Instead of seeing him get cut down by a former apprentice, we got to see him give himself up to the Force and forever cement in our brains that he is the most powerful Jedi. I'm glad we saw him go out a winner instead of a heartbreaking scene like Han. Snoke's death blew my mind. We don't need another Sidious story, and unlike Vader, based off the movies alone, my boy Kylo Ren will get a chance to take things a step further. By the way, I'm only 26, and I saw the prequels before I saw the originals, so my vision of Vader is a little different than most. I know he was hardcore, I'm substituting a word there, and the ultimate villain, but I never really saw that in his movies, and I think that's because of the order I watched them in. I was much more a fan of Maul as far as intimidation and fear goes. I saw episode 1 before I ever truly saw the originals. That's interesting. That's an interesting perspective.
I think that it is an accurate perspective.
I do too. It's just, to me, that just seems so foreign of an idea. I get it conceptually, but I definitely don't feel that way.
It's because you don't have that experience.
I know. I saw, However, that said, in Rogue One, at the end of Vader was one of the most awesome scenes.
That scene in Rogue One.
Okay. That scene in Rogue One at the end of with Vader was one of the most awesome scenes in any Star Wars movies. But don't get me sidetracked. Sorry about that. I've heard all the theories that Snoke was force projecting, but then how do you explain him being split in half? Kylo fell through Luke when he attacked him. Snoke's gone, people. Let it go. All hail Supreme Leader Ren. Or better yet, all hail Supreme Leader Solo. What do you all anticipate for the last movie? I have no theories about where they go from here, aside from the obvious, like Ren being in control and the rebellion starting to gain traction. I'm happy Abrams is back, but I'm officially on the Rian Johnson wagon, and I'm pumped that he gets to helm the new trilogy. Thanks for enduring this lame email, and thanks for creating such an awesome podcast. Christian. P.S. Unrelated question, but do any of you know why the Clone Wars TV series has no chronological order? It's so frustrating. I've just started Rebels, and I'm hoping they don't make the mistake with that series.
Rebels is very much in chronological order.
It is. Clone Wars, they actually have a chronological order on like Wikipedia or somewhere. You can Google it and you can watch them in the actual chronological order. I'm not in the later seasons, but in the beginning, it really doesn't bug me.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that it went out of order.
Yeah, right. So, what was his question back here? What do we anticipate for the last movie? I actually was thinking about this the other day. So, Force Awakens left us with a lot to talk about over the next 2 years while we waited for the movie.
Well, there was lots of what ifs.
Right.
Well, what if it's Obi-Wan's daughter? What if it's Luke's daughter?
Right. And so everybody talked about it hardcore. What are we talking about now? What if Snoke's not really dead? What if
there's no mystery?
Rey turns good or Ren turns good? What if Rey, I don't know. What if that boy becomes the next whatever?
No, I think
I'm talking about what
I know
people are.
I think
about.
the big on the fruit that needs to be plucked is whether or not Rey can redeem Ben ultimately.
Well, and rebuild the Resistance.
I think that's
it was established that
right.
It's going to rebuild because of how they ended the movie. Luke created the hope, and he furthered the legacy, the legend.
He created the myth.
Right.
The spark. So the resolution of that conflict is what's left. And it's not as sexy to talk about because there's not a lot of mystery. Like, you know who the players are, you know what sides they're on. It's how it's going to resolve. So I don't. My favorite idea that isn't going to happen would involve like Rey going off and doing like some weird adventure where she has to fight the Knights of Ren to get to Kylo.
I would like to know where the Knights of Ren were. I was thinking about that
Yeah.
the other day too. So maybe Kylo like killed him or something to make sure they didn't mess with his power.
Maybe. I
To
don't
me,
know.
it seems like with the Sith and the Jedi gone, there's not really a clear good guy and bad guy. And I don't think Kylo is completely evil now. Because you can see there's still... Like, he didn't kill Leia when he completely had the chance. It's not as strict of a line of turning good or turning bad. It's more... He's just kind of...
Well, that's
I
the
don't know.
conflict within him, right?
Well,
He's just kind of power hungry right now, but he's not 100% evil or dark side. It's just he wanted to be in charge.
and where does he go from here? Like, what's his motivation for being the leader? Because he's lost his main goal, which was find Luke, kill Luke. What is it
I
now?
don't think that was his main goal.
What was his main goal?
I think his main goal is to rule the galaxy.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't ever picked up on that.
I think he was always stuck in the shadows of his mom and his dad and his uncle. And so he wants to show that he was more important than all of them.
Okay, that I could agree.
Yeah.
He wants to be better than them or be
Right.
perceived as better than them. We watched Matt the Radar Technician
Yeah.
last night. Jenny was playing it.
That's the first time you saw it?
No, I saw it a
okay.
long time ago
Yeah.
when it first came out, but then I watched it again and it was fun.
Yeah.
What's up, nerd leaders? I'm writing to you from Japan. Oh, this is from Randall. It says, I'm writing to you from Japan on my phone. He normally lives in Singapore. And just want to say happy belated Merry Christmas. Hope you and your families had a blessed time and that Tim and Jen are doing well with Max. We are. Max is perfect. Anyway, finally, after almost a month's wait, I can finally watch The Last Jedi, and I can't wait. First thing next year, I will watch The Last Jedi. Just want to say something to Tim. Don't think you are a bad parent. You want to make sure that your family is happy, and you were sad when you realized that you would miss your daughter's birthday, which shows that you are a good parent. In relation to you saying you weren't a good parent in one of these episodes, 131 through 135. Thanks, Randall.
This was the whole force Megan to go to the movie debate. She
Yeah,
went and she had a
did
good
go
time.
and she had fun. It's nice when you have to force your kids to do stuff. At least
I
do.
have to force Job to do stuff.
They
like,
just
all the time.
would rather be on their phone.
Well, I don't
watching
have that
YouTube.
problem. He just wants to be at home and play with
Right.
us. He
Yeah,
wants
yeah.
to build stuff, and he just doesn't like leaving the house.
I don't either. I don't blame him. So there's a video I watched and I wanted to show you. It's a rap battle. Boba Fett versus Deadpool. Kind of an extra for Tim because of Comic Nerds Unite. And he gives us a link here.
Does Randall listen to Comic Nerds?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know that anybody does, which is why that show's dead.
Just bots. Bots download it and delete it.
I wish they did. No, I mean, we definitely had listeners. I mean, we got a bunch of tweets and stuff when the podcast slowed down, but we haven't really... I had somebody the other day ask me,
Yeah.
just yesterday, I think. They were like, what's up with Comic Nerds Unite? I was like, well, it's just kind of chilling. I don't know.
No inspiration.
Yeah, we need to have a talk and decide if we're going to euthanize the baby
You're
or not.
coming up on
A year and a half.
of not podcasting.
Yeah. I've started looking for Lego Star Wars sets through your link, of course. Thank you. But everything on Amazon is so expensive. So I've got to go. My time is up, and I have one last request. Could you take a photo of your recording studio? As every time I watch your live streams, I try to picture your studio. I get a little confused. Anyway, thanks for reading this. May the Force be with you. Randall out.
I put some pictures on Discord this morning.
Oh, God.
You're not in it.
No, but all this mess in his Lego boxes.
Oh,
are
man.
everywhere.
Tim builds Legos.
Legos on the organized on the ground.
And all his wrappers.
Oh, man.
Tim needs to clean his room.
This is from Jesse. He says, haven't had time to really put together an email about my feedback, so I'll just condense it and send a picture of my bullet points. Happy New Year. Great way to send an email. This gets me through emails a lot quicker, so if anybody else wants to bullet points their
Bullet
The Last
points are
Jedi
great.
faults are great. He says, I hated the fact that Snoke was the reason they were able to talk to each other, and I guess they kept the ability at the end.
I don't necessarily think they kept the ability.
Well,
I think
they
thing.
kept talking after.
No, the next after Snoke gets cut in half, they don't talk again and they don't really talk. They just have that scene where Kylo's looking at Rey as she's leaving on the Falcon and she closes the door. So I think that at that point they were at such close proximity they could sense each other,
Right.
similar to how Luke and Leia could on Bespin. And now it's gone. But we'll see, right?
So Jesse
Who knows?
didn't actually do bullet points. He did check boxes. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna check it off. I'm checking it off. Now that the lightsaber is broken, she can use the crystal and create her own lightsaber. Maybe a staff.
Maybe. We'll see.
Oh, that'd be kind of cool. Check. I noticed the force projection that Luke used looked similar to Return of the Jedi Luke and even had a similar fighting stance. Was this because that's when he emotionally felt the strongest?
I don't know. It's because that's what he wanted.
Yeah.
What he wanted to look like.
He
I
wanted
mean,
to look a little younger, a little
Yeah.
less hermity.
yeah, he's got a little just for men in there. Thumb first.
If you're going to make a force projection, why not make yourself look better?
Yeah.
But
know
I
I
didn't
would.
even notice that he looked different when I watched it until everybody.
I did. I was like, wow. He must like now he's
Got
also
shave.
emo.
Yeah.
He just feels better. This one's from Wilson. He says, "Hey guys, hope you all are well."
You skipped over John Krabs. They were on the same day, so maybe. No, John's
No.
was a day.
You always put things in a different order because of the way you reply. I don't know why your app acts so different. I'll get to his. His is 2 away.
No, Chris Wilson was on the 31st.
Yeah,
John Grab was on the 30th.
his was on the third. Okay, so you replied to it and it stuck it up on the 31st for me.
That's what happened. Okay.
So, hey guys, hope you all are well. First things first, let's get the important things out of the way. When I start counting on my fingers, I start with my thumb. After seeing The Last Jedi the second time, I had found my fave bit and nobody mentioned it. The interaction with Luke and R2 was amazing. I loved it because that's where the Star Wars story begins, with Luke meeting R2. There were so many parts in this movie that made me happy that it was hard to point them all out.
Right.
But I did love that. Imagine in episode 9 there being like a Christmas carols scenario. Rey will be visited by a different Force ghost at different points throughout the movie, and they teach her something different. I think that would be amazing.
That would be cool.
May the Force be with you. P.S. The Borat typo was intentional. Haha.
Very nice.
Very nice. The next one is from no one. Anthony. Anthony just sent in a YouTube link. The Last Jedi will have a reveal bigger than Darth Vader's line.
I had asked him. So he had sent in a previous email that his impression was that they had marketed it as being the shocking reveal. And so I said, send me your evidence of Ryan Johnson saying that.
Right.
And this was his evidence. And it was a podcaster talking about the Japanese marketing.
Oh,
Because one of the Japanese posters played up a big reveal. And so then we talked back and forth about how that's a thing in Japan. And like, that was not at all the message that was sent in the U.S. marketing or from the director himself.
So this one is from my friend John Grab. He drove from...
No one else's friend. Only Tim's friend.
Well, he was my friend first, you jerks.
That's okay, whatever.
He's our friend.
Oh,
Fine.
okay.
So John lives in Tallahassee, Florida, and he drove...
What's his address? Why don't we just fully dox him while we're...
No, I'm just...
Add it.
I mean, he drove from Peoria, Illinois to Tallahassee, so he actually listened to our podcast.
Yeah,
He's
he
not
had
a
a-
normal listener.
He had a lot of time. And
So
we
he-
told him the day before he left.
Listen to the
You
podcast.
should listen to the
Right, and then he
podcast.
wrote a really long email. So here he goes. Hey guys, I mostly enjoyed The Last Jedi. 8 out of 10 lightsabers. There you go. Now we don't need to read the rest of the email.
Yeah.
JK. But I'm here to pick Nits and Chewbacca, and I'm all out of Baka. That's a good one. First, 2 points unrelated to the movie. You wonder where I get my humor from. John and I were friends since I was a baby. Number one. Negative 4 degrees Fahrenheit is approximately negative 20 degrees centigrade. Centigrade is based on a 0 to 100
oh my gosh,
system.
so many people emailed in to be like, Josh was wrong. You were wrong about this
On a
thing.
0 to 100
was first,
system,
though.
where 0, 32 degrees Fahrenheit, is the freezing point of water, and 100 is the boiling point. Short version, Illinois was cold during the last
Yeah.
episode.
So the crossover is minus 40. And I even posted it on Facebook as I was driving
But
home
it did not thwart,
while recording it.
anybody's efforts to prove you wrong.
No.
Number 2.
So I have a funny aside. I was in the bathroom at work and somebody brought it up.
For real?
They came in and were like, hey,
Hey, I just want you to know.
Science Corner 101.
That's awesome. Number 2, FLCL Fooly Cooley is an anime, and I would highly recommend it. Giant irons threaten to flatten a town, while a space pirate seduces and tricks a young boy. Great stuff. Sounds great. So on to the movie. As stated above, I liked it. My 8-year-old daughter said that it was her favorite Star Wars movie thus far. I would say that's a generous, given the number of loose ends. My biggest frustrations revolve around Admiral Holdo and the space chase. Rogue One Easter eggs aside, it would have made much more sense to have Holdo be a spy who helps the First Order track the rebels than to have the entire side plot regarding the hyperspace tracking, the trip to Canto Bight, and the sudden discovery that a single hyperspace jump could destroy an entire fleet. Instead, she would have sold out the escaping transports and turned over the ship to the First Order. I tend to agree that most of these side plots were unnecessary.
There's a thing that was pointed out in that video that Jesus was talking about, where in Rogue One, there's that scene near the end where they're looking for the plans for the Death Star, and they're going through, rattling through different projects.
Right.
And one of the projects was hyperspace tracking.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or whatever her name is.
Ren.
What?
Jin.
Jen, there it is.
Jin Urso. Come on.
Her, she like pulls out the thing or whatever. Yeah. I actually agree. I thought that Holdo was going to do that. Well, I'm not going to say I agree. I agree that some of those things were unnecessary, but that doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy them. A lot of things that happen in life are unnecessary. Rey's parents being nobodies does fit within the narrative of the new movies and the notion that anyone can be a hero. This does seem a bit inconsistent with some of the plot points in The Force Awakens, though. First, if Rey is no one, it seems very coincidental that she just happens to work on the one and only Millennium Falcon in the entire galaxy, and that Finn and Poe crash within walking distance. If the explanation is that the Force willed it to happen, Force ex machina, I wish that they would just say so. I don't think they have to.
And there's a lot implied about Jakku as well. Being
a Force
an important place in the galaxy.
Beacon. One point that I'm surprised no one else mentioned, though, why are we so certain that Rey is still the light side and Kylo Ren is the dark side? When Rey interacts with Kylo Ren, Rey is almost always the aggressor. Kylo Ren is generally calm and composed and wants to join with her as equals, not even as her master. Rey responds with fury and multiple attempts to kill him rather than convert him after Snoke has been dispatched. Her response doesn't exactly seem like one born of the light. Any thoughts?
I don't ever remember her trying to kill him. I remember her fighting him.
I remember her being fairly aggressive.
Yeah.
And
I agree with what he's saying, and I think that there is no dark and light anymore. I don't think exactly.
They very explicitly.
Yeah, there is dark
Say
and
that
light
there
still.
is.
There's no Jedi and Sith.
Right, there's no Jedi and Sith.
So the
but
rules
I
are
don't
started
think that
over.
She is 100% good, and I don't think he's 100% bad. I think she's on. I think the First Order is bad, but just like with the Empire, I think there's probably still a lot of good people.
He is the
within
First
it.
Order.
Right, he is now. Well, and Hux, my boy Hux.
Right, so, okay, obviously Hux is 100% evil. I think he's more evil than Kylo. And I think the rebellion is good, but there's probably still people like Saw Gerrera that are bad within the rebellion.
He's hopefully dead.
Yes, but I mean people like that, like radicals.
Can you imagine if he was still alive and showed up? He shows up in episode 9 and Jenny just has a stroke.
So in general, I think Rey is on the good side with the rebellion, but I don't think she's 100%
I don't see her as being aggressive, I guess. I see her as
I think she's being impulsive, and I think she has.
She's definitely impulsive. That's one of the things Luke tells her, that you're too impulsive. But that doesn't mean aggression. That just means you want things to move forward.
I think she's been kind of aggressive towards him.
I do too. I mean, she's mad he's not changing sides. I think that she does have some anger. To briefly address some of the other common controversies, yes, I found Leia's force pull to the ship to be awkward. It just doesn't seem to add much to the narrative. We've talked that to death,
Some people,
I think.
yeah, I mean, it's super polarizing. Some people love it. Some people don't.
Why? I don't love it,
I'm firmly in the don't love it category.
but I'm not upset about it.
Yeah, I'm not going to lose any sleep.
By contrast, Captain Phasma's inglorious death was a fun homage to Boba Fett's passing. Was that an homage? I did not like it.
Sort of, falling into a pit.
Yeah. I also did not have any problem with Luke's brush with darkness. My takeaway, Luke's arrogance projected his own darkness and fear onto Ben. Ben defended himself in the only way available. He brought the hut down on both of them. While we still don't know much of anything about the Knights of Ren, I believe that it could still be a dead poet society of Jedi. A group of young people who don't like being told that there are some things that they can't learn, so they research banned text in secret. Yes, they may be learning about the Sith, but that doesn't mean they had already fallen. Luke feared the possibility that Ben might already be stronger than he is and that he might be interested in the Sith. As a result, Luke briefly became exactly what he feared, in part because he wasn't willing to acknowledge and face the darkness that exists in everyone, including himself. So there are some points that I agree with. I agree that Luke overreacted, but I think it is pretty clear in the story that Luke had just a brief moment and that he was, in fact, analyzing Kylo's actual thoughts and could see he was completely dark at that point. Too long didn't read. He said, TLDR, he says.
But he's still not completely dark. He didn't kill his mom, and he's tormented all the time. I don't think he's completely dark. I don't think he was then, and I don't think he is now.
He's conflicted, but he killed his dad.
But he didn't. Yeah, dads are easier to kill than moms, so he did not kill his mom.
Dads are easier to kill
Oh
than
my gosh, watch out, Lenny.
Jeez Louise.
No, seriously. But that says something. If he was completely dark, it'd be like his mom would be just like nothing. It'd be like nobody to him.
I disagree.
Chris is going to have to add Jenny on the porch of the toothpick house.
With a knife.
With a knife.
Oh my gosh. I agree with everything John said there about Luke.
So you agree that he was already dark?
No, he didn't say that.
Yeah.
He said he was seeing he was saying there's darkness in everyone, and Luke
There is
couldn't
darkness in
deal with
everyone.
that. Luke didn't acknowledge that, and he was projecting his
No,
own
he was
fears.
afraid of it.
Well, whatever. He didn't say Kylo was 100% dark.
No, he was trying to say that they were just reading banned books. TLDR. It was a good movie that managed to be Star Wars while moving in a new direction. Well, you could have made your email a lot shorter, John.
Yeah.
Predictions for episode 9. 1, courtesy of Jeff Magnum X. Jeff is John's brother. Rather than just training Rey, Force Ghost Luke spends most of his time haunting and harassing Kylo Ren. Things like sarcastically saying, "Wow, nice job, Ben. Your grandfather would be so proud. I would love to see this."
I don't think it's going to go that way. I think they're going to not rely on Luke.
Really?
Yes.
2, Rey becomes celibate and comes to a stalemate with Kylo Ren. They decide to accept the balance in the Force and create a school together named StarWars with House Kylo Renarin and Rey Finclaw. That's all for now. Thanks for some great shows. May the Force be with you. John, the grape smuggling Rhodian. Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
P.S. Jen is right about the original interactions between Rey and Finn having a potential romance. One of his first questions is, "Do you have a boyfriend? A cute boyfriend?" That being said, I think she'll probably be celibate and married to the Force, as noted above. And a beautiful relationship they have. Boy, we got a lot more emails.
Yeah.
I think we got to kill this because Jenny's got to go pick up Nohan. So the next step, we've read all the December letters.
Yes.
So that's the good cutoff. And then we've got January letters. So we need to record again soon so we can pump these out. What are we going to do for the next episode?
I think we should just finish the letters.
Really?
And then-
Full letters?
And then start with reviewing books again until Rebels comes out.
I think Rebels will be... Let's ask Google. When
It was March.
When does Star Wars Rebels start again?
You sent that link, remember? It was like March 21st.
Was
Here's
it?
some information about Star Wars Rebels. This animated entry in the Star Wars franchise fills the gap between the events of Episode 3 and
Oh my
Episode
gosh.
4.
Thanks, Google.
At least Google actually
Google
answers
never talks to
questions.
me.
I know.
Google doesn't ever speak back.
You have to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
She only answers like if you ask a question it has an answer to, like that.
It says May 16th.
I thought when you sent it was March. I thought it was March.
I thought it was sooner as well.
well,
I'll
then-
have to redig it back up. So
Okay.
yeah, we'll have some time.
So,
like when you posted those spoilers about Rebels or
yeah.
whatever, it showed the date that the episode was. If you go into
Yeah,
Discord in the
yeah.
spoiler chat,
As far as trying to go.
it'll be in there. Anyway, we're everywhere on the internet. We've got an Amazon link, so if you want to buy these books that we talked about, just go to StarWarsNerdsUnite.com, click on Amazon at the top, and buy your book, and that helps us host the podcast and pay for crap like that.
How much do we have? We've been like multiple months of not. We haven't bought anything in a while.
Yeah, I'm hosting. I bought some comics,
Yeah.
but we got a couple $100.
Still not enough for chairs.
Oh, I mean enough for one chair for Jenny, which is all that really matters, right?
I want a new chair. Did I put it in the spoilers chat?
Yeah, you did.
It's not showing up.
You had to have put it in there.
That's where I thought I
Or
put
somebody,
it too.
maybe somebody else posted it.
No, I definitely posted it.
Oh boy. All right, whatever.
Whatever.
So letters at StarWarsNerdsUnite.com. If you want to be read on the air 4 months after you send an email in, we will get that done, no problem. Follow us everywhere. Tell your friends about us. Rate us and review us anywhere you can. Let's get this podcast to grow, eh? Spotify is a big help for us. Spotify actually
Suggests us.
keeps growing,
Yeah.
and iTunes in them is going down. Like normal downloads, even with Podcast Addict and stuff. But Spotify is a continual growth area. I think just because naturally people are listening to more stuff in Spotify.
No, I think it's because it gets suggested. People search for Star Wars related things and it suggests us.
Yeah. Well, that's helpful. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for listening, and may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
Did you hear that? We're doomed.
This podcast is a part of the BenView Network.
You can find this and other podcasts like it at BenViewNetwork.com.